It's early May here in the Houston metro area, which means it's dewberry season. I am here on 800 acres of private farmland to forage for dewberries. And to clarify, I did get permission to be here, so don't go trespassing on private property on account of dewberries. It's not worth getting arrested for. I'm going to bring you along as we go foraging for berries. I'm also going to explain what exactly a dewberry is, because I realize it's not common like something like a blueberry and a blackberry. And we'll do a taste test. Well, I'll actually try to explain what they taste like. And at the end of the day, I'll bring them on home, wash them up, and we'll make dewberry jam. Let's go. So as I am foraging the area for berries, I thought I'd take the time just to explain what exactly a dewberry is, as I realize it's not the most common fruit or berry. So dewberries are a type of bramble. They are closely related to blackberries. They actually look like a dark raspberry. However, the taste is more reminiscent to that of a blackberry. Dewberries are also native to many areas of the southeastern United States, which includes Texas. And so they usually run rampant here. However, the growing season for dewberries is quite short. Here in the Houston metro area, they are usually fruiting from end of April through mid-May. So we are at the first stop where we're going to be foraging for berries. Dewberries are quite thorny, and so because of that, just do yourself a favor and invest in some gloves that are able to protect you from thorns. These I absolutely love. I'll leave a link for them below. Back from the farm, and we are going to do a dewberry taste test. However, I came out and noticed a lot of my blackberries are actually ready to harvest, and so I'm going to pick a few of those, and I'm actually going to try to compare the taste of the dewberries to the blackberries. Since most people have actually had blackberries before, I think it'll be a good point of reference. So I have washed some berries, and now it is time for the best part, in my opinion, and that is a taste test. We have some dewberries and blackberries. I'm going to taste them both and try to do a comparison just to give you a bit of a point of reference. So color-wise, it is identical to a blackberry. However, you can see there is a meaningful difference in size between the blackberry here and the dewberry. This is actually one of the larger dewberries that I picked versus the smaller blackberries that I picked. A lot of my blackberries were actually more along this size, and a lot of the dewberries were more that size. But that's enough about how they look. Let's see how they taste. Now, the moment of truth. I'm gonna start with the dewberry. Now blackberry. Mm. Mm. Okay. So right off the bat, the dewberries definitely have more of a wild flavor profile, if that makes sense. It does have a hint of like a blackberry flavor, but just with a hint of something that just feels wild and a bit untamed, if that makes sense, but in a good way. They are quite a bit more seedy than the blackberry. So not only are they smaller, they have a lot more seeds in them. It is, they are slightly sweet, but more has like a tart punch to it. Whereas these blackberries, y'all, they are so juicy. The blackberries are definitely more sweet than tart, whereas the dewberries are more tart than sweet. The blackberries are a lot juicier, and they're not quite as acidic as the dewberries. Yeah. And there is a slight bitterness. So I think that's maybe where that wildness comes in, is it's got like an edge of bitterness to it, but I still like them. However, the blackberry definitely, I would say, would have a broader appeal, which is probably why they're mass produced and sold in grocery stores. But all in all, both are good. If I had to pick a winner, hands down the blackberries. They're juicier, they are sweeter, and these are homegrown. So next I'm about to prepare my berries to make some jam, but I ended up pre-soaking the dewberries outside because they were quite buggy. And then I brought them inside and did a thorough wash. Now, because dewberries are very seedy, I always use a food mill just to get as many of the seeds out as possible. It's quite tedious, but also kind of relaxing and definitely worth it. Nevertheless, this step is completely optional, but I highly recommend. I got about 8 cups worth of juice from all the dewberries, which is pretty good. But look at all those seeds, y'all. Like, who wants to eat that? So since we're making jam, we're going to need pectin. And my go-to is Pomona's. It is a low sugar pectin. Highly recommend. And here I'm just following the instructions to mix the pectin in the sweetener of choice. I'm using sugar here. And next I'm just adding the mixture to a Dutch oven on a medium heat, as well as some bottled lemon juice. And Pomona's actually uses calcium to help the gelling process. So I'm adding the calcium and bringing it to a boil. But look how gorgeous this color is, y'all. Like, beautiful. And I love adding cinnamon into my jam. However, this ingredient is also optional. I used about a tablespoon for the amount that I had. And again, I can't get over how vibrant this color is. It is like sending me. Next, I'm adding the sugar pectin mixture, and then you're just going to stir it rigorously so everything dissolves. And then you're going to bring it to a boil for about 2 minutes. And then you're going to remove it from heat because you don't want to let it boil and cook down too long because it will start to break down the pectin and your jam ain't going to jam. I'm going to be water bath canning my jam so that it's shelf stable. If you want step-by-step instructions on how to water bath can jam, I'm going to leave a link below to my mango jam video where I show you how to do this in great detail. I don't know if I ever shared this with y'all, but I am a jam making addict. Like, I probably have close to 100 jars of jam in my pantry. No lie. They make fabulous gifts. They're also one of those gifts that people really appreciate because they know you took the time to like make this for them. And it's very thoughtful. Like, I've given this as gifts for Christmas, housewarming, birthdays, you name it, you're getting some jam. That's also how I'm able to rationalize my addiction. After the jam has processed in the water bath canner, the jars actually have to sit out untouched between 12 to 24 hours so that the jars get a proper seal. So we'll be back to see the final result, but first, so I've got quite a bit more blackberries to pick, which I am not complaining at all. It is a blessing. And I need to figure out what I'm going to make outside of jam. I think the dewberries I am going to probably use 100% in making jam. I think the blackberries I'll probably use for jam, cobbler, and then maybe to flavor my kombucha that I make. But yeah, if you have any ideas on how to use berries or recipes that you really like, I would love to hear about them, because not only do I have this plant here that is just thriving and just putting out and putting out, I also have these here that are starting to bear fruit. These are the floricanes that I planted last year. And floricanes, they produce fruit on their second year cane. And so this is the first time I'm actually getting fruit from these. These are 3 different varieties of blackberries. I think it's the Wichita, the Ponca, and Sweetie Pie or Cutie Pie. I can't remember the name of it. I'll put it on the screen. So I'm going to get another flush of berries here. And then I also have blackberries just planted in random areas of my garden because they are just sort of a kind of set and forget type of crop, which is my favorite type of crop, but incredibly blessed. I don't know what this is. I thought this was like one of the canes of the blackberries that grew because I've had quite a few canes sort of spread. But this looks nothing like the blackberry. I think maybe a weed snuck its way in. So I might have to take care of that sooner rather than later. These are like putting out and putting out, and I could not be more excited. Again, I planted these last year. My harvest last year was pretty mediocre, but I'm definitely getting a bumper crop this year. And so between this over here and then the other ones I have planted throughout my garden, I will have no shortage of blackberries this season. Word of advice, or maybe of caution, if you are foraging for berries or really any food, you want to make sure you are 110% sure that it is actually what you think it is. And because there are a lot of things that look similar to things that are out in the wild, they're actually toxic. Obviously, you can use like different apps and Google Lens and things like that, but even that's not foolproof. And so, what I did is when I first started out, is that I would actually take pictures and send them to my local master gardeners and extension office, and they would give me pretty thorough advice on how to properly identify native species of plants and know the difference between what's poisonous and maybe what's not poisonous from like the leaves and like the different like the flowers and things like that. And so let's say you go through all that and you're still like 90% sure. I'd recommend, like, if you're gonna eat it still, it's completely up to you, taste like the tiniest piece of it and wait 30 minutes to an hour to see if you have a reaction. But yeah, y'all, use common sense. But y'all already know the deal. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that bell. And remember, every black thumb ripens to green, and it all just starts with a seed.